Black metal, a genre of mystery, darkness, and gloom, an extreme subgenre of the heavy metal genre of music. Black metal is characterized by an abundance of rapid-fire tempos, a shrieked, high-pitched vocal style, distorted bass and electric guitar, low-quality studio and live recordings, all to create a dark and despondent atmosphere. Many songwriters in the genre prefer the use of dissonant chords and unconventional song structures. Most black metal musicians even wear corpse paint, a distinct style of black and white face paint, almost similar to the face paint of legendary rock band Kiss.
Another thing is that every band that I've ever been in that's at all black metal, everyone else thinks it's a silly thing, so they like, no, don't do corpse paint, it's stupid, like it's embarrassing or whatever. I don't want to be on stage with you looking like that, but I've always loved it. King of Hell from Gorgoroth, well, he's no longer in Gorgoroth, he's not been for a while. Just like his look in particular, all throughout high school, I always thought, boy, if I could just look like this guy, I would just have it made.
The origins of black metal date as far back as the 1980s, where heavy metal bands such as Venom, Bathory, Merciful Fate, and Celtic Frost made their respective debuts. Venom coined the term black metal in the release of their album by the same name. This album includes a song titled Black Metal, where they talk about how they create heavy metal in the name of Satan. Black metal is such an acquired taste that many people who do not listen to the genre believe it is distasteful and hateful, in addition to the controversy associated with the genre.
You got to keep in mind, when I first started listening to this stuff, I was an edgy teen. So when I heard all this stuff happen, I was like, wow, that is so cool. Obviously, I'm not condoning murdering somebody in self-defense, stabbing somebody 44 times in self-defense. I'm not necessarily condoning it, but it definitely builds up a certain mysticism to the genre. It builds a certain air to it. Especially because it wasn't just one band participating in those types of behaviors. Like, you had the guitarists from Emperor also like setting torches down to churches with the guys with Varg Vikernes or what have you. They were all like participating in these types of behaviors. It wasn't just like, oh, you have these bands from Norway and then you just have these guys Mayhem who are just fucking putting like severed animal heads on pikes and like other really disgusting things, because I don't know if other bands necessarily use that in my example. I don't know if other bands did that. I know Mayhem did that, but I know Gorgoroth did do that.
I think that back when these things occurred with the genre, I think in a weird way it made sense, and I think for that to be the start of such an extreme genre of music, it kind of makes sense that there were some extreme things going on outside of the music. And for a phenomenon in history of something that just happened in one area at one time with a small select amount of people, it's really fascinating, and I think that it adds to the overall mystique of the genre that these things happened, and I think it's a really interesting story that I've read time and time again, and I appreciate in the context of what it is that it happened despite the events being such heinous crimes and everything. It's just, yeah, I think that it's an integral part of the history of black metal, but it's obvious that it couldn't stay that way, and it's good that it evolved away from there. But just at the time and the place for what it was, I think that it makes sense looking back at it.
After the first wave of black metal bands in the 1980s, the second wave of black metal emerged, setting the bar for all bands to come. Many of the musicians in the second wave of black metal are Satanist, anti-Christian, misanthropic, and strong advocates of the pagan religion. This is due to many of the first black metal bands in Norway having their ethnic roots in Scandinavian culture. Some bands would even burn churches as an act of rebellion against the takeover of Christianity in Europe. These burnings heavily affected the influence and the controversy surrounding black metal. Dead was the vocalist of Mayhem from the years of 1988 to 1991. Born in Västerhinge, Sweden, he was bullied at a young age so severely that he had a near-death experience, beaten so brutally that he was actually pronounced dead and resuscitated later on. Since then, he had become so fascinated with death that he wanted to be dead himself. Dead would bury his clothes in the ground for months, only to unearth them and give them a deathly scent. In addition to this, He would wear black and white corpse paint, giving himself a more dead than alive appearance. On April 8, 1991, in Krokstad, Norway, Dead committed suicide. He left a note before he died that would read, "Excuse all the blood." Euronymous was the first person to discover Dead's body. He took a picture of Olin's body, which would later be used as an album cover for Mayhem's live album, Dawn of the Black Hearts. In 1993, tensions arose between Varg Vikernes of Burzum and Euronymous of Mayhem, as well as between Euronymous and the whole Norwegian black metal scene as a whole. Varg recorded bass on the album De Mysteriis Dom Satanas. Varg wanted to be credited for his part in the album's production. However, Euronymous, who had since started to lose his sanity in recent days, was continuously threatening multiple people within the scene, especially Vikernes. He did not want Vikernes to be credited at all. On August 10th, in 1993, Varg Vikernes traveled from Bergen to Euronymous' apartment in Oslo to get Euronymous to sign a contract as a form of truce, so each man could go their separate ways and never have to talk to one another ever again. Varg arrived and allegedly was attacked by Euronymous, who Varg claimed was trying to kill him. An intense fistfight ensued between the two, starting inside the apartment and ending outside, where Varg would stab Euronymous multiple times in the head, chest, and back. Varg was arrested 9 days later and sentenced to 21 years in prison, Norway's maximum penalty for murder. He was not only charged with Euronymous' murder, but also the arsons of many churches in Norway as well.
I think that there's definitely no one particular place it's going because there's so many branching paths. If you look at the local scene, at least in Rhode Island, a lot of the local black metal scene is pretty raw and almost old school, very punk influenced. But there's a lot of black metal bands out there that are pushing the envelope when it comes to speed and how extreme they are. I think that black metal is going in a lot of different branching paths. There's also some progressive paths, but I think there's some bands that are just pushing how extreme they can make it. Some bands that are just going back to the raw roots and making it even more punk than other bands might have, like kind of crossing the line to crust punk. And I think it's interesting because it's just a lot of varying paths that just don't know where these bands are going to end up, you know?
Black metal, a dark and underground miasma, a cacophony of pure misery and woe, continues to be a powerful yet quite substantially underground form of music in the heavy metal community. It has become much more diverse and revered in later years, and will continue to be a significant creative force for many years to come.